Now, we also have a stunning U.S. poll that came out. It was a Harris poll. Maybe some of you saw this. I had to reread it several times. I didn't think I was actually seeing it correctly, and I had to, and I want to share it with you today. So the report came out about from the Guardian about how there was this Harris poll that was conducted in the United States, and the numbers were just simply, again, astonishing. 55% of Americans believe the economy is shrinking, and when they were surveyed, and 56% think the U.S. is in a recession right now. Now, the fact is, of course, is that we're not in a recession technically, because according to the definition of a recession, you have 2 consecutive quarters of a generally slowing economy. And that's not what we've seen here. In fact, we're seeing quite the opposite. The Fed has raised interest rates, and they've had a hard time slowing down the economy. But 55% believe the economy is shrinking, and 56% believe the U.S. is in a recession despite those facts. Now, the last recession we actually had that was declared by the NBER was back in 2020. And it was a very short and shallow recession because it was an election year. And you started getting checks in the mail. Remember that? Remember when you started getting big old checks in the mail from the government? And they were mailing out checks, and they were just doing everything they possibly could. Just everything possible, because it was an election year, you see. And so the recession was very short. The stock market came down and then went right back up because money was flowing. Well, they were handing out money hand over fist. Remember that? Remember when you could just apply for a loan and they would forgive it? I mean, all kinds of money came out, right? And so we had a recession there. So we had tremendous amount of money flow into the economy in 2020. And make your head spin. Make your head spin. So you're going to get some inflation from that at some point, aren't you? You sure are. But there's a lag effect. So the inflation didn't immediately appear. That's not how economics works. So when you flood the economy with money in 2020, when might you see that inflation? Well, maybe in the next 12 to 18 months, maybe a couple of years. And so that's what we got, you know. And so anyway, but also it all depends. So if you're a Republican, you say, well, 67% of the Republican survey said, yeah, we're definitely in a recession, you know. And if you're a Democrat, 49. Now this was more amazing. 49% of Democrats thought they said we were in a recession. And now obviously, when you go to the store and you see higher prices, you know, you may not like it. You know, you say, well, I don't like this. Well, that's fine. It's understandable. I don't like it either. But it doesn't mean the economy's in a recession. Right? There's actually a definition for this, you know, that we would actually have to look at. And that definition hasn't been met. But that's not the craziest thing. That's not the craziest thing in the poll. That was actually pretty minor. Another 49% of all respondents said that they believe that the S&P 500 index was down for the year. Right? They thought it was down. Okay, now this isn't something that you just get to kind of make up, or you kind of just feel it. You know, you don't get to say, well, I think based on my feelings and based on my facts, I think the S&P is down this year. Like that, you know, maybe with the recession you can say, you know, I think they're lying or whatever. And maybe you can just say that. Even though we have these GDP numbers that are coming out, they show that we're growing. So, but even they say, well, they're just lying to us, you know. Okay, well, you can understand because the media is, you know, smoke screened us, and, you know, you can understand all that. But here, you don't really have an excuse, you know, because the S&P 500, anybody can look this up. You know, anybody can look it up really quickly. And it's, you know, it's pretty obvious. If you look it up, you'll see, well, the S&P 500 is up this year. You know, it's up like 12%. You know, and if you go back last year, it was up 24%, you know. Nearly 50% of the American people think the S&P 500 index is down in 2024. I mean, you talk about some low information voters. Low information voters. I mean, financial illiteracy, you know, illiterate. I mean, this is easy to find. This is easy information to get. You can Google S&P 500. You can look at a stock chart. you can see what's happened. Nearly 50% of the American people think the stock market is down this year. How can you trust anything else they say? How can you trust what else they tell you? How can you trust? And we're living in a world where there's two sets of facts now. You could even show these people, look, it's up. They say, I don't believe it. They don't believe it. Now, that one was pretty wild. But then there was another crazy one. Another 49%. 49%, nearly half of them. You're starting to get this too, by the way. Guess what? About half of the people are one party and half of the people are the other party. Right? So these numbers are kind of matching up, aren't they? 49% of Americans believe that unemployment is at a 50-year high. Now, that's just like mind-blowing because right now the unemployment level is at a 50-year low. The unemployment rate has been under 4% for a very long time, and it's near a 50-year low. But half of the people in America who were polled think that the unemployment level is at a 50-year high. And this is something you can look up. You can see it. You can go look it up. And even if you go to like some place like Shadow Stats or some place where they're like, no, everybody's lying to you. Well, even they'll even admit like it's lower than it has been. I mean, so my point is that we have two different sets of facts in this country. I mean, and these are things that shouldn't be able to be different facts. Like whether the stock market is up or not is not an opinion. It's not an opinion. Whether unemployment is at a 50-year high or low is not an opinion. So as somebody who is a data guy, and who understands the shortcomings of data and understands how people lie with data, I am still astonished at the low information of this poll. It's incredible. And it actually lines up well with the overall pessimism of the country. It actually lines up pretty well. So this poll was shocking. You can look it up. We'll put a link to it in today's show notes. Harris poll. It's understandable in some ways. People are angry. People are scared. They don't know what's around the corner. They're constantly being told by their favorite news channel that they should be angry, that they should be scared. And then when they're asked about basic economic facts, they just share that anger and fear with the questioner, apparently. But some things are not an opinion. Some things are just straight up data. And this poll is shocking.